We're going to talk about the Rangers. Do you have a bold prediction for the Rangers in 2024? And now I know this is also something that Jared Sandler threw out on his Twitter. And by the way, we're going to have him on at 1:20. It's at Jared Sandler. If you love the Rangers, hopefully you're rocking with us. But you should also be following him on social media because he is on top of all things Texas Rangers.
If you didn't see his kind of Instagram, Twitter, social media post on why he thinks the lineup should be a certain way, it is great, and I totally agree with him.
From the 903, I love this. Bold prediction, the Rangers fill up the entire starting lineup at the All-Star game this year. That would be, and then they'd still get left off of the MLB.com top 10 list.
Yeah, and probably, they're not going to get any hype for the next year. I think that it would definitely change if they repeat what they did last year, win 90 games, make a playoff run. I won't even say win the World Series, but if they made it to like the ALCS, I think all of a sudden they go like, hey man, this Josh Young and Jonah Heim, they
might be good.
They're pretty good at this baseball thing.
From the 214, bold prediction, the Rangers win 95-plus games and have a top-5 bullpen. I will tell you this, despite the concerns about the depth of the starting rotation, if this is a top-5 bullpen in baseball, I also think we will win 95-plus games.
I agree with you. Because last year, if you had a top-5 bullpen in all of baseball, let's just say that would be top 3 in the American League, you win over 100 games.
You would have won a preposterous amount of
probably
games.
Maybe I'll take it to 102.
Okay.
Is that what you just said?
Yeah. 102 is fair.
I think they would have won 102 games with one of the best bullpens in baseball last year. By the way, if you want to watch the Rangers, they are on Channel 21 today at 3 p.m. Jared Sandler and David Murphy will be on that call. So if
you could watch the game while listening to G-Bag Nation, multitask it up. I like it.
But if you're like, today on Channel 21, you can watch the Rangers and Cleveland. It's Shane Bieber on the mound for Cleveland and Heaney on the mound for the Rangers.
From the 940, bold prediction, Rangers trade for a starter. I'm assuming that means a starting pitcher. I have to admit, I think I would feel more comfortable with that going into the season. I realize come June, they're hoping that Scherzer, and then July, Mahle, August, DeGrom. I don't know if it'll play out exactly like that, but they think they're going to kind of work their way in like that.
I think that by July 1st, Chris Young will have a good idea if he has to or not. Because if Max Scherzer is back and he's made a couple starts and he's looking solid, and then Mally's about ready to come back, I think is this our number one need to push us to the next level? It could be.
But you don't anticipate it in the first half until things play out.
I don't think so. The other thing, too, is we know how almost impossible it is to make trades in the first 2 months of the season. That's fair. Now. It's really tough to make a major trading for Dylan Cease today is just not happening. Trading for Dylan Cease in April and May just isn't happening. Chicago is going to play this out they want 3 desperate teams in July bidding against each other.
Although I will say there's been some buzz that perhaps the Yankees have walked back around to kick the tires a little bit.
Yeah.
That will be depending on obviously what happens with
And by the way, Aaron Judge is sitting out now. He has ab discomfort. So he's one of those guys that you always if he's healthy, 62 home runs. But what's the percentage that he's going to stay healthy enough to repeat his 2022 season? And I guess I made one of my bold predictions already.
Which I totally agree with.
You go with it, and I'll just, agree.
Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford will finish 1-2 in Rookie of the Year voting.
Do you have a favorite? I agree with you. I just said that. I think that too. Do you think one will win it and one will get second? Do you have that bold prediction? I'm going to go
with a slight lean toward Evan Carter, just because I've already seen him play at the highest pressure-filled levels. I have no doubt that Wyatt Langford's going to kick ass, but I'm going to go slight lean towards Evan Carter, though I would be fine either way.
It's going to be interesting in this is I believe this too, is it'll matter on the voters. What Evan Carter did last year will have a little bit of weight because they're going to be like, dude, should we vote for him because what he did in the playoffs last year? I'm not saying that. It'll just be a 10% maybe or 5% advantage.
Well, that could be all you need.
Right. And then Evan Carter's a better defensive player than Wyatt Langford. So how much will defense play a part in this. And I do think Wyatt Langford's going to have better power numbers than Evan Carter. So then it'll be like, can Evan Carter beat Wyatt Langford, his own teammate, at this Rookie of the Year thing based off of more complete player, while Wyatt Langford could be a dude who like ends up having 32 home runs and 40 doubles. And I don't think Evan Carter, I think, will be a guy more like 20 home runs and 35, 40 doubles.
I could see that. Now, we asked for bold predictions. They're not always good bold predictions. From the 817 bold prediction, the Rangers will win 82 games this year. I think we're all probably in agreement.
That could happen with the starting pitching.
But any run that finishes not in the playoffs is going to feel like a disappointment as the defending world champions. That just makes sense.
Especially with the extra spot. You know, you think of now 6 teams make it.
Yes, absolutely. From the 469, Wyatt Langford will play center field on opening day. Now, I do not believe. I think if you told me Evan Carter plays center, because they've been trotting him out there some, and Wyatt Langford plays left, I would believe that. I have to admit, I would be pretty stunned if Wyatt Langford took center field.
They're not even giving him a rep in center field. He hasn't played 1 second of center field in spring training. In fact, they're just concentrating on him playing left and only left field.
There's still some work to be done from the fielding perspective.
They're moving Carter around. Carter, we know, played some left field last year, obviously, in the playoffs, is playing right field some. I guess he's playing center a little bit. So I think Carter's the one they feel more comfortable with moving around and just saying, Wyatt, you're our left fielder, hopefully for the next 20 years.
From the 254, listen to all these things they're predicting, and you can see why they predict a repeat. Nasty Nate will win 17 games. Mad Max will win 12 games. Let me tell you this. If Max Scherzer wins 12 games this year, we're flying, man. This team is going to be unstoppable.
I think he's only going to get 15 starts.
Hey, unstoppable. Evan Carter, Rookie of the Year. Corey Seager, MVP. Rangers win the World Series in 5 games. I mean, look, if all of those things happen, I also believe that will happen.
So I've brought this up before. Should I just predict them to win 84 games and just miss the playoffs? Because that's what I predicted last year.
Yes.
So do I do the same prediction, even though I think they're better? Because here's my bold prediction. Obviously, I'm with you on the Rookie of the Year thing. And I think Jackson Holliday is going to compete very strongly in the category. But here's my prediction. The Rangers are considered the best offense in the American League. So I don't, is it runs scored? Is it on base percentage? Is it batting average? Like there's different ways to say that's the number one team. There's different categories. Usually it goes by runs scored. I do think the Rangers are going to have the best offense in the American League. The only reason I won't say in all of baseball is I wonder about the Dodgers and the Braves because those lineups are tremendous.
Fine. If you end up shaking out at third, great.
But all of a sudden, the Aaron Judge Juan Soto effect is already struggling because Aaron Judge is already dealing with ab discomfort in spring training. And then I look at the Astros, and I think they're going to have a great offense too. But I do think the Rangers, even with injuries, you just go, well, now we have Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter, and we have Ezekiel Duran who's filled in well, and Walsh is having a good spring training. So you just start looking at, and Foskew's a 14th overall pick, and Foskew was okay yesterday. He didn't do anything that I'm like, whoa, Justin Foskew, but there was nothing I'm like, oh no, Justin Foskew either. So I just think the depth here. So when you have guys that need days off, you're still going to have a tremendous lineup.
Yeah, and you're right about the injuries thing. Unfortunately, that's going to play a part, I'm sure, to a certain extent for every team. You saw that with the Rangers a ton last year. When the 469, this is a bold prediction. The Rangers will have the best starting rotation and the worst bullpen. That will feel oddly similar to last year, where your starting rotation was really top-notch and your bullpen was really not for the regular season.
I brought this yesterday. Here's the hope. You better hope that Seattle doesn't have the best rotation.
Yes.
Because their rotation on paper does arguably look like the best in the American League.
Yes, they do. From the 214, man, this is interesting. Rangers will win 105 games, which would obviously crush their regular season record, but lose to the Braves in the Fall Classic. I have to admit, I'd be upset if they lost, but but it would still be pretty incredible to see them in the World Series in back-to-back years again, kind of re-announcing themselves as Corey said last week, inevitable. If you make it to back-to-back World Series, you're like, well, hell yeah.
Did I bring this up yesterday on the air? I forget what I say and don't say, and my family makes a lot of fun of me for repeating stories.
I could see that.
Did I bring up the Atlanta Braves and their spring training and if they're trying to do anything different based off of their lack of playoff success lately?
I don't believe so.
So, obviously, in 21, they win the World Series.
Yep.
22, 23, especially last year, they were probably the favorites to win it all because the Dodgers didn't have the pitching to do it, and they didn't have a good playoffs. So, I was watching the foul territory?
Yes.
And they were asking, hey, you were just at Braves camp. And the guy, not Tom Verducci, but the little guy, he's awesome.
With the bow ties? Ken Rosenthal?
Ken Rosenthal, yes, thank you. And he was like, no, I was there. They're going about business the same way. All you can do is win your 100 games and then be ready for the playoffs. And you hope to play your best when it matters the most, because if you have a bad day or a bad weekend, you're out of the playoffs. You can't do anything in spring training to fix last year's playoffs. So I do think the Braves have a great chance to win the World Series this year. But it does get in your head. I do think the Dodgers, even though they have that World Series in 2020 because it was a COVID World Series, I do still think in the back of their minds, even though they've added what they've added, there could be a little bit of like, can we get this done? Now, the Braves did in 21, so I don't think they have this lack of belief in their team. But that's the one thing about the Rangers this year is they do have that, I'm going to basketball here, Rudy Tomjanovich, that heart of a champion.
Yes.
They do now believe in each other. They went through a whole season with ups and downs, and there's going to be ups and downs this year. There's going to be times where we don't think they're good at baseball, and there's going to be times that we think they're the best in baseball. But they know when they now look at each other, they know they're champions. And can they use that to their ability? Because that year when Houston won the back-to-back championships, they were the sixth
seed.
Yeah, they weren't. Yeah. They didn't have a great regular season, but they made the playoffs and they knew how to win in the playoffs. And I think the Rangers and the Braves know how to win in the playoffs. They just didn't get it done last year. It'll be interesting for the Braves on their lack of success last year in the playoffs. But I think for the Rangers, if they can make the playoffs, they know how to win playoff baseball.
Now, I wanted to throw this out there because a couple of people said the same thing, and this is what I thought was going to happen in the offseason. From the 682 bold prediction, Rangers trade Taveras. And from the 214, I think to optimize the Rangers roster, you need to trade Taveras. I thought that was going to happen. And it's not a knock against him. It's just looking at the logical outfield depth on this team when you go Adolis in right, Evan Carter in center, and Wyatt Langford in third to make up for a deficit in your starting pitching. That has not been the direction that the Rangers have gone. I cannot rule that out. So I could absolutely see that happening.
Yeah, I want to go with bold prediction. We're out of time. I want to predict one of these young pitchers who's in the minor leagues is going to have a big jump. I want it to happen. I just can't predict it.
And also Corey Seager wins the MVP. We're the Can't See Masterpiece right here